Walaikum assalam. How are you, Hazel?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. How are you, Aisha?
Fine, ma'am. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. Good morning, Rabia. I hope that you are fine, dear.
Good morning, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, I'm fine. What about you?
I'm fine. Thank you. Okay, Aisha and Rabia. Yesterday, I sent a soft copy of a document regarding journal entries. You need to access that because we are going to work as per that document. Okay?
Okay, ma'am, I will after pay.
Yes, in your email ID, registered email ID, I had sent that. On this particular paper, we are going to be using. This is the same one as for which I had given you the detailed accounting entries, okay? Can we just wait for Mariam for a few minutes? Okay, my dear students, if during the lecture I speak in Urdu sometimes, is it a problem for you? Can you understand? Actually, the problem is that Mariam has studied in Arabic school. So sometimes she has a problem in understanding English. So I can't speak Arabic. So that's why she can understand Urdu also. So I will be explaining in English. And then particularly, I will be explaining the things in Urdu as well. Urdu or Hindi, the same thing. Samiha, I think you can understand. You can understand. Okay, let her come. Good morning. How are you, Mariam? Where are you? I am in the class. Okay, okay. Morning. Sorry, it's okay, it's fine. We were just waiting for you. Mariam, this is the soft copy, this is the hard copy of the document which I had sent you through the emails also, okay? In your registered email ID, it is also present. And Mariam, you can have this detail. You did not have it. Okay, my dear students, the accounting entries which are present in this document are the most repetitive ones. These are the ones which you are going to find in all of your book again and again. In all of the chapters which we are going to study later also, these accounting entries are going to be coming over there too. And these are going to come in the exam also on repetitive basis. In MCQs, they can come, in MTQs, they can come, in any way they can come, in the form of true or false also they can come. Okay, now We cannot memorize these accounting entries. We should be going according to the concept. According to which concept we need to solve these accounting entries on the basis of debit and credit. So Mariam, debit और credit आपको पता है, I think सारे स्कूल का पता चल चुका हुआ है debit और credit का. The rules of debit and credit for double entry system. So we will be going according to that. So as we have discussed in our previous lecture about accounting equation and about the rules of debit and credit, may I please ask you that whenever there is an increase in asset, what are we going to do with that? Debit. Decrease in asset is a credit. Increase in liabilities of a credit. Increase in liability is credit. Decrease in liability, Samiha? Debit.
Debit.
Decrease in equity is a credit. Decrease in equity, Mariam? Debit. Increase in expenses of a increase in expenses, debit. Decrease in expenses, Rabia?
Credit.
Credit. Increase in income, Aisha?
Debit.
Credit.
Credit.
Increase in income is credit. Decrease in income, Samiha? Debit. So these are the rules of debit and credit. There are basically 5 elements of the financial statements, namely income, expenses, equity, assets, and liabilities. So we should be knowing that what are the rules of debit and credit which are going to be applied on these elements. So Mariam, 5 elements in financial statements के कौन-कौन से? Income, expenses, assets, liabilities और equity. इन सब के मुतालिक हमें रूल्स ऑफ डेबिट एंड क्रेडिट का पता होना चाहिए, तो ही हम लोग ये सारी अकाउंटिंग एंट्रीज कर सकेंगे. नाउ आई डू हैव अ हैबिट टू स्पीक इन इंग्लिश. मेरे लिए भी उर्दू में जाना इट्स डिफिकल्ट.
People can also understand. So let's continue the lecture because it will be, I guess, difficult.
All of the lecture in Urdu? even it will be difficult for me too, because now with the passage of time there is a habit of speaking in English. अब मुझे उर्दू बोलना इस तरह लग रहा है कि जैसे मैं अरबी बोल रही हूँ, मुझे क्योंकि जुबान नहीं ठहरती इस तरह से. Okay, anyhow, so we just need to understand the rules of debit and credit in order to solve these accounting entries. I do not suggest you to memorize these accounting entries because later in your future life it will then become difficult. So whatever you are going to do regarding accounting entries, just do it as per the concepts, as per the rules of debit and credit. तो आप लोगों ने rules of debit and credit को follow करना है जब भी कोई accounting entry, accounting transaction आप लोगों के सामने आएगी. Second cheese, whatever accounting entry you will be passing, you have to consider the business entity concept over there. Business entity concept, that whatever accounting entry is going to be passed, it will be passed as per the business. You will be considering that you are a business. Whatever is increasing or decreasing in the business, as per that you are going to pass an accounting entry. जैसे मरियम हम लोग सोचते हैं कि इनकम अगर इंक्रीज हो रही है, इनकम अगर बढ़ रही है, तो वो हम लोग ये नहीं सोचेंगे कि शेयर होल्डर के पास इनकम बढ़ रही है तो उसकी क्या अकाउंटिंग एंट्री होगी. We need to think that income is increasing in the business, and then what is going to be an accounting entry. अगर कोई एक्सपेंस हो रहा है तो वो शेयर होल्डर का एक्सपेंस नहीं हो रहा, बल्कि किसका हो रहा है? किसका एक्सपेंस हो रहा है? बिजनेस का. तो सभी अकाउंटिंग एंट्रीज हम लोग बिजनेस एंटिटी कॉन्सेप्ट के रूल के हिसाब से फॉलो करेंगे. Now, one by one, we are going to have a look at the accounting entries. First accounting entry, if you can see, it is commencement of the business with cash. ये इस तरह से भी आ सकती है accounting entry कि capital introduced in the business और business commenced with cash. दोनों तरह से ही आ सकती है. Business शुरू किया गया है with the help of capital by introducing some equity in it. तो business के अंदर क्या increase हो रहा है? बिजनेस कैश इंक्रीज हो रहा है. बेसिकली बिजनेस के अंदर पैसा आ रहा है, because in the form of cash the capital is being introduced. If an accounting entry comes that commenced business with cash, it means that the cash has increased in the business and cash ultimately is an asset. So increase in asset is debit. So if there is, Aisha and Rabia, are you able to see the board?
No, ma'am.
I am writing on the board. Are you able to see it?
No, ma'am.
Are you able to see it now?
No. Can you write in middle, ma'am? Then we can see.
Okay, here.
Yes, ma'am. You can
Okay.
write it.
So if an accounting entry is commenced business with कैश या फिर अकाउंटिंग एंट्री है इंट्रोड्यूस्ड कैपिटल in the business. So which thing is increasing in the business now? It's an asset, cash, which is increasing in the business. So what are we going to do? We will be debiting cash account. AC is the short form of account. Okay. And we need to credit something also because it's the rule of the double entry system that there will be a corresponding credit for every debit with an equal and opposite effect. So we have debited cash account, but what are we going to credit? No. We are going to credit capital. We are going to credit equity or capital account. Why is it so? Hizar is telling that liability. Accounting equation is, which we had discussed. Assets is equal to, or more simply, okay, it's fine. Assets is equal to liabilities plus equity. Equity is the right of owners. Liability is the right of third parties. So if something is coming in the business with the help of the owners, it is an increase in equity. If something is coming with the help of the third parties into the business, apart from the owners, then it will be a liability. So still over here in this particular journal entry, in this accounting entry, the business has been commenced with the help of cash. The cash is introduced by the owners. Owners ने cash introduce करवाया है business के अंदर. इस वजह से हम लोगों की capital या equity जो है बढ़ेगी. एक और चीज आप लोगों को यहाँ पे सोचनी पड़ेगी कि हम लोगों ने कैपिटल क्यों लिखा है, इक्विटी क्यों नहीं लिखा. जब नॉर्मली सोल ट्रेडरशिप और पार्टनरशिप बिजनेस के अंदर पैसा लगाया जाता है, पैसा इंट्रोड्यूस किया जाता है, तो कैपिटल अकाउंट इंक्रीज होता है. जब लिमिटेड लायबिलिटी कंपनीज के अंदर आता है पैसा, कैपिटल इंट्रोड्यूस होता है, तो उसे हम लोग इक्विटी कहते हैं. Equity is a term which we do use mainly in the case of limited liability companies. Okay, capital is the term which we use for sole traderships and partnership businesses. Got it? It has the same meaning, but equity is a broader term. We are going to use it for limited liability companies, and capital will be used for sole traderships and partnership businesses. Now, after writing an accounting entry, we need to give a short narration. You are going to open in bracket in below to this transaction, and you are going to write a narration, short statement. What has happened in an accounting entry? Capital introduced in the form of cash. This is known as a narration. A short statement to explain the accounting entry which we just put below to the accounting entry is known as a narration. तो हम लोग को narration पुट करनी पड़ेगी अकाउंटिंग एंट्री के नीचे. ये बताती है कि अकाउंटिंग एंट्री में क्या होगा. ठीक है. अच्छा, द सेकेंड अकाउंटिंग एंट्री, ऑनर्स प्राइवेट कार bought into business. Now there has been a private car of owner which he or she has introduced to the business. So whatever owner is introducing in the business, it will remain the capital or equity for the business. Whatever will be given by the owner to the business or shareholder to the business, it will be called as a capital or equity. So Mariam, जब भी owner या फिर shareholder कुछ भी introduce करवाएगा business के अंदर, तो business में capital increase होगा, business में equity increase होगी. So over here, in the case of this accounting entry, owner has introduced the private car, his own personal car, to the business. So on one hand, capital is increasing. On the other hand, what is happening in the business? What has increased in the business? Asset has increased. Which asset has increased? Private car. So whenever there is an increase in asset, we do debit it. Asset. Which asset? It's a car. Car account. And what are we going to credit? The capital has also increased. So we are going to credit capital account. What will be the narration? Private car introduced. Are you clear? This is how we are going to pass the accounting entries. I just suggest you not to memorize the accounting entries, but go as per the concepts. Aisha and Rabia, are you clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Whenever there is an increase in asset in the business, we are going to debit it. Whenever there is an increase in liability in the business, we are going to credit it. So we are going as per the accounting concepts. Double entry system. DR is the short form of debit. DR is for debit. CR is for credit. Okay. The spellings of debit are DEBIT, but the word which is used to denote debit is DR. Okay. If you are clear, may I erase it?
Yes.
Aisha, Rabia.
Yes, ma'am.
Students, if at any point you are not clear, you can ask me, because this is the best time to ask the questions. Okay, now. Third accounting entry. Motor car bought for cash. Motor car cash के बदले खरीदी गई है. Motor car bought for cash. The business has purchased a motor car for cash. Cash दिया गया है और motor car खरीदी गई है. क्या चीज increase हो रही है business में? Asset. Asset. Which asset? Motor car. और credit क्या होगा? क्या चीज decrease हो रही है business में? Cash. One asset is increasing and the other asset is decreasing. On the basis of cash, motor car has been purchased. So we are going to debit motor car. We are going to debit asset. And with an asset, we are going to write motor car. And we are going to credit which other asset is decreasing? Cash. We are going to credit cash. And what narration will be there? Bought motor car. Clear, everyone? Why I am writing it like this? Asset dash motor car. जब आप लोग सॉफ्टवेयर्स की हेल्प से ये अकाउंटिंग एंट्री पास करोगे तो वहां पर आप लोगों को ऑप्शन दिया जाता है एसेट के साथ ड्रॉप डाउन लिस्ट आती है कि कौन सा एसेट इंक्रीज हो रहा है. ठीक है, तो फिर उस ड्रॉप डाउन लिस्ट के अंदर से आप लोग मोटर कार सेलेक्ट करोगे. ठीक है, but in exam you must be knowing that maybe they will be giving you with the name of motor car only, motor car account debit and credit cash account, or they will be giving you like this asset account debit credit cash account. Got it? Or they can tell you like this also non-current asset account debit cash account credit, because private car is or motor car is a non-current asset. Do you remember, Mariam? Yes. Motor car क्या है? Non-current asset है, fixed asset है, because ये business के अंदर 12 महीने से ज़्यादा use होगा, more than 12 months. Got it, everyone? Yes. Aisha, Rabia, are you clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the fourth one is loan obtained for cash. Who has obtained loan for cash? Business. So which thing is increasing in the business? Cash is increasing, okay. Asset is increasing because loan has been taken. So on one side, asset is increasing, that is cash. On the other side, one more thing is increasing. What is that? Liability. Now the asset is being brought in the business with the help of a third party. By taking the investment or taking the money from the third party, the asset is being brought in the business. So now this kind of liability is going to be credited. We are not going to credit capital because this loan is not taken from the shareholders. This investment is not from the shareholders. Okay. So what are we going to debit here? Cash account, or if the cash is going to the bank account of the business, then we can debit bank account also. If in the form of cash only the loan is being taken, then it's okay to debit cash account. If they say that cash is going to the bank account of the business, then you are going to debit bank account. The same thing. And we are going to credit liability. Which liability is increasing? Loan. We are going to credit loan account. Narration can be loan taken. This narration can be anything of your choice. Whatever statement you want to select in order to summarize the transaction, you can write. May I erase it? Aisha, Rabia, may I erase it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now. Purchased goods for cash. And purchased goods on credit. My dear students, there are two types of transactions which can happen in the organization. There can be cash transactions or credit transactions. मरियम दो तरह की transactions business में हो सकती हैं, cash या फिर credit transaction. Cash transaction is a kind of a transaction in which straight away cash is involved. At the time of purchasing or selling goods, cash is received or cash is given. On the other hand, we have credit transactions in which cash is not involved at the time of the transactions. For example, goods have been purchased, but the cash payment is not made at the time of purchase. On the other hand, goods have been sold, but the amount in the form of cash is not received at the time of the transaction. तो मरियम कैश ट्रांजैक्शंस क्या हैं? स्ट्रेट अवे जब ट्रांजैक्शन हो रही है कैश उसमें इन्वॉल्व है. जैसे गुड्स परचेज किए हैं तो कैश दे दिया गया है उसी वक्त. गुड्स सेल किए हैं कैश उसी वक्त रिसीव हो गया है. क्रेडिट उधार पर है. जब गुड्स सेल किए हैं तो कैश रिसीव नहीं किया बल्कि फ्यूचर में प्रॉमिस कर लिया कि फ्यूचर में हम लोग पे कर देंगे. ठीक है. इसी तरह से गुड्स जो है वो सेल किए हैं तो कैश रिसीव नहीं किया बल्कि प्रॉमिस कर लिया गया है कि फ्यूचर के अंदर ये कैश रिसीव कर लिया जाएगा. So cash or credit transactions, there are two types of the transactions which happen in the organizations. Now, purchased goods for cash. Goods is a term which is used for inventory in the organizations. जब भी आप लोगों के एग्जाम में जब भी आप लोगों की बुक के अंदर गुड्स की टर्म यूज की जाएगी इसका मतलब ये है कि इन्वेंट्री परचेज की गई है. सोल्ड गुड्स इन्वेंट्री सोल्ड सेल की गई है. वो इन्वेंट्री वो स्टॉक जो कि आपके ऑर्डिनरी कोर्स ऑफ बिजनेस के अंदर यूज हो रहा है. इफ यू हैव अ बिजनेस ऑफ मोटर कार्स परचेज एंड सेल देन दीस मोटर कार्स विल बी योर गुड्स. Whatever thing you are dealing in, that would be your goods. So goods is the term which is used for inventory used in your ordinary course of the business. Purchased goods for cash. Which thing is increasing in the business? Asset? Goods. I told you previously also, we do consider it purchases. जब भी आप लोग गुड्स खरीद रहे हो तो आप लोग उन्हें अकाउंटिंग एंट्री के अंदर परचेजेस के नाम से डिनोट करोगे. ठीक है. आप लोग जो नाम लोगे उनका गुड्स का वो परचेजेस होगा. आप ये नहीं कहोगे कि एसेट इंक्रीज हुआ है, बट यू आर गोइंग टू से दैट परचेजेस हैव बीन मेड इन द सेम सॉर्ट दैट एक्सपेंसेस आर बीइंग मेड. तो इंक्रीज इन परचेजेस is going to be debited. अगर इसके अलावा इसके बरक्स आप लोग एसेट खरीद रहे हो तो उसको आप लोग परचेजेस नहीं कहोगे. जब आप लोग इन्वेंट्री खरीद रहे हो या इन्वेंट्री को सेल आउट कर रहे हो तो फिर आप लोग परचेजेस और सेल्स का नाम दोगे। जब आप लोग एसेट परचेज या सेल कर रहे हो तो एसेट को डेबिट या क्रेडिट करोगे स्ट्रेट, ठीक है। Whenever you are purchasing or selling inventory, then you will be using the terms of purchases and sales straight. When you are purchasing or selling asset, then you will be using the name of asset straight. You will be debiting or crediting asset. So in this case, when the goods have been purchased for cash, what are you going to debit? Debit is going to be the purchases account. Got it? Goods have been purchased for cash. Now, which other thing is decreasing in the business?
Cash.
Cash. Because goods have been purchased and the payment is being made in the form of cash straight away at the time of the transaction. उसी वक्त cash की payment दे दी गई है, तो हम लोग क्या करेंगे? Credit will be cash account, and the narration will be goods purchased for cash. Is everyone clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, purchased goods on credit. Now, goods have been purchased, so as usual, we are going to debit purchases account. Which thing is increased in the business? Purchases have been increased. It's the same as we did in the last accounting entry. But now, what are we going to credit? Since we are not purchasing on the basis of cash, that is why cash is not decreasing in the business. So, which thing is decreasing in the business or which thing is increasing? Liability is increasing because we have purchased, but we have to pay for that transaction in the future. It's a credit transaction. So liability is increased, and this liability has to be fulfilled in the near future. Which kind of liability is increased? Payables. Very good. Excellent. We are going to credit payables account. Narration will be goods purchased on credit. Who are payable students? These are the persons or group of persons from whom the business has purchased on credit. Payables कौन है? ये वो लोग हैं या group of persons हैं जिनसे business ने कोई चीज उधार पर खरीदी है. Who are payables? These are the persons, a group of persons from whom the business has purchased something on credit. इसके बरक्स एक और टर्म यूज होती है, वो क्या है? Receivables. Who are receivables? Receivables वो persons हैं जिनसे business ने पैसे वसूल करने हैं. Receivables वो लोग हैं जिन्हें business ने उधार पर कुछ सेल किया है. ठीक है? Receivables जिन्हें business ने कुछ उधार पे सेल किया है. Payables जिनसे business ने कुछ उधार पर खरीदा है. So receivables are those persons to whom business has made the sales on credit. And from those receivables, the business will be receiving the amount in future. Got it?
Yes.
So these two accounting entries are repetitive and very important. Aisha and Rabia, are you cleared?
Yes, ma'am.
Yesterday, when I was about to sleep, at that time, that particular equation which I was telling you in yesterday's lecture, it was revolving in my mind. And I made one more equation to simplify that particular area for you. Okay, so just remind me towards the end of the lecture, I will try to clarify. I have invented one more easier method for you. Okay. मरियम समझ आ रहा है आपको बच्चे? अब ये आपके लिए इजी है उर्दू के अंदर. क्लियर हो रहा है? अच्छी बात है. बस आप टेंशन नहीं लो. यू आर टेकिंग अ लॉट ऑफ टेंशन. हिजर को देखो, टेंशन फ्री, नो टेंशन.
12 साल से
12 साल से कोई टेंशन नहीं. और उससे पहले
स्टडी टेंशन.
देख ऐसे ही होना चाहिए. Because there is no need to take stress about studies. This is what we are doing to make our life good. Okay, this is just to increase the quality of the life. This is not whole life. The purpose of the life is just to stay relaxed, stay happy. Shall I erase it, students?
Yes.
In Mariam, I used to take a lot of stress when I was a student, but even then, lesser than you. Okay, now the seventh accounting entry, sold goods for cash. Sold goods for cash and sold goods on credit. Sold goods for cash, that we have sold something, business has sold something and received cash immediately at the time of the transaction. The cash is involved in the transaction. While selling the goods, the cash has been immediately received. Sold goods on credit, the goods have been sold by the business, but the cash is not received immediately, but it has been promised to be received in the future. This is a credit sales. So, Mariam sold goods for cash, goods sale किए गए हैं और cash immediately ले लिया गया है. Sold goods on credit, goods sale किए गए हैं पर cash immediately receive नहीं किया गया बल्कि promise किया गया है कि on some future date it is going to be received. So, whenever the goods have been sold, what are we going to do? Which thing is increasing or decreasing in the business? Cash. Which asset is increasing? Cash. So, cash is being received. So, we are going to debit cash account. On the other hand, which other thing is increasing or decreasing? No, sales. When we are selling goods, the term which we are going to use is sales. Basically, income is increasing and this type of income will be denoted with the term sales account. So, the accounting narration will be goods sold for cash. Everyone clear?
Yes.
Okay, now sold goods on credit. So same like the previous accounting entry, we are going to credit sales account because the income is increasing in the form of sales. But now the cash is not increasing in the business. Which thing is increasing in the business? Basically, an asset is increasing in the business. A right to receive an amount in the future is increasing. So asset is our right. And which kind of right is increasing? As is it told, it's receivables. Receivables are our current assets. So current assets, receivables are increasing. The increase in asset is debit. So we are going to debit receivables account. Narration is goods sold on credit. Who are receivables? Receivables are the persons to whom the goods have been sold on credit by the business. These are the persons to whom the goods have been sold on credit and they have promised the business to pay the amount in the future. Receivables are our current assets. So if we have sold goods for cash, the accounting entry is debit cash, credit sales. If we have sold the goods on credit, the accounting entry is debit receivables account, credit sales account. Aisha and Rabia, are you cleared?
Yes, ma'am.
Shall I erase it? Mariam, are you clear? Sabiha, are you clear, dear? Goods returned by customer or sales returns. Students, whenever we are selling, whenever the business is selling something to the customer, and on the basis of few matters, if the goods are returned back to the business, this is known as a sales returns. If we have sold something to a person, to our customer, but on the basis of few measures. Say, for example, if the quality is not as per promise, if say, for example, the goods have been defected or anything is there, the customer returns the goods to business. This is known as sales returns. हम लोग अपने कस्टमर को कुछ भी सेल करते हैं और किसी भी बात की बेस पे अगर कस्टमर हमें वो सेल्स वापस रिटर्न कर देता है तो बिजनेस के लिए सेल्स रिटर्न्स, goods returned by customer. So whenever the goods are going to be returned by the customer, what accounting entry should we be passing? What are we going to debit? Very good. Whenever we do make the sales, we do credit sales. Whenever they are going to be returned back, we are going to debit sales returns. When we make sales, हम लोग credit करते हैं sales को. जब वही sales business के पास वापस आ जाती है, तो हम लोग दोबारा debit sales को नहीं करेंगे, sales returns को debit करेंगे. Sales returns account. Okay, sales returns are also known as return inwards. In the exam, with any name it can come. Either the examiner can tell you goods returned by customer or sales returns or return inwards. Okay, so the accounting entry can also be sales returns account or return inwards account. Why do we call them return inwards? Because the sales are coming back to the business, into the business. What are we going to credit, students? Credit sales. When we do make sales, as the income is increasing, we do credit sales. But over here, now the income is sort of decreasing. That is why we have debited sales returns. But what are we going to credit? Receivables. Very good. When we do make the sales on credit, the accounting entry is debit receivables and credit sales. When we are making the sales for cash, we do debit cash account and we do credit sales. If the goods have been initially sold for cash and the goods have been returned back, then we are going to credit cash. We are going to reverse this accounting entry. We are going to credit cash. But if the goods have been sold initially on credit basis and now the goods are returned back to the business, then we are going to credit receivables. Why are we going to credit receivables? Because now the decrease in asset has happened. Got it? Now, to the persons to whom we had a right to receive the amount, now that right is expired. क्योंकि वो सेल्स वापस आ गई है बिजनेस के अंदर, अब हम लोग फ्यूचर में उनसे पैसे लेने के हकदार नहीं हैं. We do not. Yes.
The amount will be decreased, right? For example, if you bought 100 goods and you're returning 10, so I'll still have right of 90 goods.
No. We will be, the first initial transaction will be for 100 and the reverse transaction for returns would be for 10. And the ultimate effect will be for 90. Got it? क्योंकि डेबिट और क्रेडिट एक दूसरे को कैंसिल कर देंगे और अल्टीमेट इफेक्ट जो बिजनेस के पास और जो सेल्स हो चुकी है, जो हमने अब रिसीवेबल से पैसे लेने हैं, वो 90. ठीक है? So credit will be receivables account. Goods returned by customer. Clear? Okay, now the next accounting entry, goods returned to supplier. The goods is a term which is used for which thing, Mariam? Sales. For inventory. Whatever the business is selling and purchasing in the ordinary course of the business is known as goods. Okay, it can be purchases or it can be sales. Goods purchased, goods sold. Okay, so goods returned to the supplier are known as purchases returns, or we can call them as return outwards. Okay, contrary to the last one, it is return outwards. Now the business had purchased something which may be on few measures is going to be returned to the supplier The goods are now going out of the business, that is, it is return outwards. Return outwards are also known as purchases returns. The goods have been purchased initially on the basis of cash or on the basis of credit, but maybe on the basis of few measures, maybe defective items or anything. The business is returning the goods back to the supplier. This case is known as return outwards or purchases returns. Above, are you clear? So what accounting entry we are going to make? When the goods have been purchased on cash, what is an accounting entry, Mariam? When the goods have been purchased for cash? No, the goods have been purchased on cash. No, goods have been purchased for cash. Not about this. When the goods have been purchased for cash, हमने goods purchase किए हैं cash के लिए. The debit purchases account, credit cash account. If these goods are now returned, what accounting entry will be there? Debit cash. The cash is returned back to the business, and credit would be purchases returns accounts or return outwards account. If the goods have been initially purchased on credit, what accounting entry has been there? Debit purchases account and credit payables account. Am I right? Now, if these goods are going to be returned back to the supplier, what accounting entry will be there? Debit, reverse it, debit, payables account. Why? Because now the liability is decreasing. When the goods have been purchased on credit, the liability to pay the payables had been arised. That is why we had credited payables. Now, because the goods are returned back, that is why the liability is decreased. Now, the business is not liable to pay back those payables. That is why we are going to debit them. And we are going to credit. Which thing is decreasing in the business? Very good. We are going to credit purchases, returns, or returns outwards account. Narration will be goods return to supply.
How will you consider transaction from cash or?
They will be telling you in the exam. They will be telling you in the exam. If nothing is mentioned, then you can consider that the goods have been initially purchased or sold on credit. Because normally जब हम लोग credit पे purchase और sale करते हैं तभी returns का सवाल पैदा होता है. जब cash पे हो तो normally return नहीं होता और cash वगैरह नहीं मिलता वापस. If nothing is mentioned, you are going to consider that the transaction has been initially on the basis of credit. Got it? Now have a look at all of these 10 transactions once again. Please revise all the transactions, students. Aisha and Rabia.
Okay, ma'am.
Are you done?
Yes.
Have you revised? Aisha and Rabia, what about you both?
Yes, ma'am.
Mariam, done? If you are not clear about any of the accounting entry, please let me know. Clear about all? Okay, that's good too. Okay, now 11th one. Received payment from receivables. If the business had initially sold something on credit and now the time has come when the receivables are paying the amount back to the business, what accounting entry is going to be passed? When the amount is received from the receivables, which thing is increasing in the business now? Very good. Cash is coming in the business, cash is increasing in the business because the payment is received from the customers or from the receivables. So debit will be cash account. Which other thing is going to be credited? Which other asset is decreasing? Okay, just for your hint. Sorry? Very good. Receivables are going to be credited. Why? Because once we have received the payment from from the receivables, now we are not in a position to claim the amount back from them again. Got it? So once we have received the amount back from our receivables, the right on the receivables is expired. So now receivables are going to be decreased. That is why we are going to credit receivables account. Narration can be amount received from receivables.
Now, what if we have received only 50% of the money?
Sorry?
What if we have received only 50% of the money?
Then only 50% amount is going to be debited and credited. The remaining receivables will be remaining over there. Say, for example, we have made the sales to the receivables, debit receivables account for an amount of 100 and credit sales account for an amount of 100. And we have received only $50 from them. Then we are going to debit cash account 50 and credit receivables account 50. It means that receivables account is decreased by only 50. The remaining amount is yet to be received from. Got it? And on the other hand, about returns also, do you want a clarification about that? Is it fine? Same is the case with the returns. The remaining amount will be present in the accounts as it is. Okay, so received payment from receivables, we are going to debit cash and we are going to credit receivables. Then amount paid to suppliers or payables. वो लोग जिनसे हम लोगों ने कुछ उधार पर खरीदा था, payables, उनको हम लोग पैसे वापस कर दें. The business had purchased something on credit from the suppliers. Now the business is returning the amount back to those suppliers, back to those payables. So when the payment is being made, which accounting entry we are going to pass? Which thing we are going to credit? Cash. Very good. And what are we going to debit? Which other thing is increasing or decreasing in the business? Sorry? Payable assets?
Asset is
Liability. Liability, payables. Payables are our liability. Decrease in liability is debit. Okay, so we are going to debit payables account. Now, as we have paid the amount back to the payables, now the payables do not have a right to claim the amount in the future. So since the liability is decreasing, we are going to debit payables. Decrease in liability is debit as per the rules of debit and credit. So narration is amount paid to payables. Got it? Aisha and Rabia, are you able to see the board properly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great, dear, great. Mariam, are you cleared? May I erase it? Amount transferred to the business bank account. Suppose a business had a cash in hand. In their own drawers of the company, they had some cash. Now they are thinking to transfer that amount of cash to the business bank account. So on one hand, one asset will be increasing. On the other hand, the other asset will be decreasing. The asset which is decreasing from the business is now cash in hand. The asset which is increasing is the business bank account. Am I right? From the cash in hand, the amount is being transferred to the business bank account. The simple accounting entry will be there. Debit will be bank account. Bank account asset is increasing. And we are going to credit cash in hand or cash account. Amount transferred to bank. Clear to everyone? Okay, now paid expenses. Students, make a correction. I wrote expensed. It's paid expenses. When the expenses incurred, what are we going to debit? Increase in expenses is debit. So we are going to debit expenses account. What are we going to credit? Cash account. Expenses are paid usually in the form of cash. If from the check the expenses are being paid, then instead of cash account, we are going to credit bank account. Paid expenses. If instead of paid expenses, they say paid rent, then you will be debiting rent expense account. If they say paid electricity bill, then you will be passing an accounting entry as debit electricity bill expense account. If it is commission paid, then it will be commission expenses paid expense account. Okay. So whatever type of expenses there, you are going to elaborate. Got it, Appa? Okay, now. Are you clear about this? May we erase it? Aisha and Rabia, are you cleared?
Yes, ma'am.
Withdrew cash from business. Withdrew goods from business. My dear students, in the case of limited liability companies, during the life of the company, the owners are not allowed to withdraw anything. During the life of the company, कंपनी की जिंदगी में जब तक कंपनी अपना काम चला रही है, उसकी जिंदगी के अंदर ऑनर्स को, शेयर होल्डर्स को इजाजत नहीं होती कि वो बिजनेस से कुछ भी विड्रॉ कर सके, जैसे कि उनकी एसेट्स वगैरह या फिर कुछ भी वो विड्रॉ नहीं कर सकते। लेकिन सोल ट्रेडरशिप के अंदर या पार्टनरशिप के अंदर, इन द केस ऑफ सोल ट्रेडरशिप एंड पार्टनरशिप बिजनेसेस, द ओनर्स, the sole trader or the partners can withdraw cash or assets from the business. So whenever something is withdrawn from the business, it is known as drawings. Drawings always decrease equity. Drawings always increase the capital in the business. जब भी कोई बंदा, जब भी कोई ऑनर या शेयर होल्डर बिजनेस से कुछ विड्रॉ करेगा, तो उसका बिजनेस के अंदर राइट कम हो जाएगा, उसने अपने राइट में से कुछ अमाउंट विड्रॉ करनी। So that is why when the drawings are occurred, these are decrease in equity. So decrease in equity is debit. Increase in equity is credit. Decrease in equity is credit. So we are going to debit drawings account. In both the cases, withdrew cash from business, withdrew goods from business, we are going to debit drawings account. In the first case, withdrew cash from the business, which thing is decreasing in the business? We are going to credit cash. Narration, withdrew cash. In the second case, withdrew goods from the business. The drawings have been made, that is why we have debited drawings. But on the other hand, which other thing is decreasing or increasing in the business? The goods are decreased. So the name which we do give to the goods is purchases. So we are going to credit purchases. Purchases account. So the narration will be withdrew goods. Students, the accounting entries are very significant for making the financial statements also. जैसे कि आप लोगों को पता होना चाहिए कि अगर हम लोग ड्राइंग्स को डेबिट कर रहे हैं और क्रेडिट कैश को कर रहे हैं, तो कैश के अंदर जो डिक्रीज है, ये अल्टीमेटली रिपोर्ट होगा SOFP में। ये जो ड्राइंग्स हैं जो ड्यूरिंग द लाइफ ऑफ द बिजनेस डिक्रीज कर रहे हैं कैपिटल को, कैपिटल कहाँ पे होता है? SOFP में। तो ड्राइंग्स भी कहाँ पर रिपोर्ट होंगी? SOFP। एक तरफ SOFP में, दूसरी तरफ ये ड्राइंग्स क्योंकि परचेजेस को डिक्रीज कर रही हैं, तो ये SOPL में परचेजेस में से भी डिडक्ट होगी। Got it? So that is why you should be very much cleared about the accounting entries, because up till the end these will be helpful to you. Getting listening? Please have a look at these accounting entries. Yes, dear. Statement of financial position. Statement of financial position. Statement of profit or loss. Clear to you? May I erase it? Okay, now. Sales tax or output tax on sales. Students, there is a kind of an indirect tax which is known as value added tax. There is a kind of an indirect tax which is known as VAT. And the kind of a VAT is sales tax. What is that sales tax? The burden of the sales tax ultimately lie on the final customer. Whenever you purchase something, you pay an amount in regards to the sales tax also, which is also known as GST in some countries. Whenever you purchase something, you pay an amount. Total amount includes an amount of sales tax also. That sales tax is given to the supplier from whom you are purchasing the things. Am I right? Ultimately, at the end of a month, the supplier will be giving a return to the taxation authority in which all of the amount of the sales tax is going to be written. Got it? On the other hand, when you purchase something or when you sell something, when you are a seller, you are receiving an amount of the sales tax. When you are selling something, when the business is selling something, it receives tax. When the business is purchasing something, it pays tax. And ultimately, at the end of the month, the sales tax return has to be submitted to the taxation authorities, in which all the input tax and all the output tax, input tax on the purchases, output tax on the sales have to be mentioned. That input tax on purchases paid to the suppliers. Output tax on sales received from customers. The right on the tax is of the government. The tax has to be given to the government. When the sales tax return is filed, in that sales tax return, the total input tax and the total output tax is mentioned. That this much amount of the tax is the amount which we have paid to our suppliers. And this is much amount of the sales tax is there which we have received from the customers. If at any time the output tax is more than the input tax, it means that the tax which has been received by the person is more than the tax which has been paid. So the additional tax has to be given to the government. Addition has to be paid because the tax which is received is more than the tax which has been paid. On the other hand, if the input tax, the tax which has been paid, exceeds the output tax, the tax which has been paid, then addition can be claimed back. Got it? Now we have a full chapter on the input and output tax. But I have included the accounting entries related to the sales tax over here. When you will be doing that particular chapter also, you will be coming to these accounting entries once again. Okay, but slightly I'm giving you an idea of the input and output tax. Because right now we are doing the accounting entries related to it. Now, my dear students, what is an input tax? This is an amount of tax which is paid to the suppliers. The purchases are coming into the business. The purchases are coming into the business. That is why it is known as an input tax. The tax which is given, which is received from the sales, which is received from the suppliers, that is received from the customers, is known as output tax. Because sales are going out of the business, that is why it is known as output tax. तो मरियम, जो कि टैक्स हम लोग सप्लायर्स को देते हैं, जो परचेजेस पर होता है, वो क्या है? इनपुट टैक्स. जो टैक्स हम लोग रिसीव करते हैं अपने कस्टमर से, वो क्या है? आउटपुट टैक्स. इनपुट टैक्स परचेजेस पर, आउटपुट टैक्स सेल्स पर. Okay, now if sales tax is on sales, what is an accounting entry for sales, dear students? What is the normal accounting entry for sales? Debit receivables, and credit sales account. And we have paid an output tax also. So together with the sales, we are going to credit sales tax account also. Got it? Sales made. Now what is happening over here? The total amount which has to be received from the receivables is the addition of the amount of sales and sales tax account. You might have heard that the organizations do have a responsibility to show the amount of sales tax separately on the invoices, because sales tax is not their right. This is the right of the government.
So sales tax is the liability.
No, the sales tax is input and output tax both. It's not purchases tax and sales tax. The sales tax liability is going to arise if output tax is more than the input tax. Both of these are sales tax. We do not call it as purchases tax or sales tax. Even if we are receiving it, it's sales tax. Even if we are paying it, it's sales tax. Okay, the liability for the organization is going to arise when the output tax is greater than the input tax. Got it? So this is an accounting entry for sales tax, output tax. Okay, the one which we have to receive from the receivables. The total amount, including the amount of sales and sales tax, will be received from the receivables. Got it? You know, again, sales tax, input tax on purchases. Now again, it is called as sales tax, but it is input tax on purchases. When we are purchasing something, we are paying the tax. Got it? So what is an accounting entry for purchases? Debit purchases account and credit payables account. Together with the purchases, which other thing is going to be debited? Sales tax account. Got it? Narration will be purchases. Wait. So in the case of the purchases, it will not become purchases tax. It will still remain the sales tax, but it is input tax. The tax on purchases is input tax. The tax on sales is output tax. If the output tax is more than the input tax, then the liability arises. If input tax is more than the output tax, it means that the remaining amount can be claimed back from the taxation authority. Aisha and Rabia, are you clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Have a look at this accounting entry, both of these accounting entries once again, everyone.
Can you write this, ma'am?
Sorry?
Can you write?
Yes, I have already written. Can't you see?
I can see, ma'am. I was writing in my notebook.
What are you telling?
I was writing in my notebook for practice
Okay.
later.
Please write. Please write. Please write. Afaq, are you clear?
Yes.
This is an accounting entry. These accounting entries we are going to have a look upon in future also. But right now, because we are discussing, I have written all the accounting entries which you are going to find in all of your book. So this is all from your book. Again and again, you are going to find these accounting entries. For some of the accounting entries, we have full chapters to be discussed, okay? If you will be clear about these accounting entries right now, then future discussion will become very easy. Okay? Samiha, do you have a pain in your arm? I do have a pain in this right. But this left arm is not good. It's not good to have. Sorry? Have you discussed with your father or mother? Please discuss them immediately. Because our heart is on the left side. So that is why if we have a pain on the left side, it's not. May Allah God bless you. May I erase it, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now. 19th one. Returned goods to supplier, including sales tax. We have returned the goods to the supplier. It means that in past, we had purchased the goods from the supplier. When we purchase the goods, we do pay tax. And on the purchases, there is which kind of a tax? Yes, sales tax of which kind? Input or output? Input tax. So now the goods have been returned back to that supplier, which had included the sales tax, input tax amount in it. When we return the goods back to the supplier, what is an accounting entry? Debit is? When we are returning the goods back to the supplier, when we had purchased the goods initially, including the tax, including the input tax in it, what had been an accounting entry? No, when we had purchased the goods. For returning it is purchase. No dear. जब हम लोगों ने परचेज किया था तो तब क्या अकाउंटिंग एंट्री थी? जब परचेज किया था, रिटर्न नहीं. जब परचेज किया था तब क्या अकाउंटिंग एंट्री थी? Purchases account, debit. No, when including sales tax. Debit, sales tax account, that is input tax. And we had credited payables account. We had purchased on credit including sales tax. This has been input tax. Got it? Now, when we are returning the goods which we had initially purchased on credit, including sales tax, what is going to be an accounting entry? We are going to debit payables account. We are going to credit purchases returns account. Very good. Purchases returns are also known as return outwards. Sales are returned inwards, purchases returns are returned outwards. These are going back to the supplier. And we are going to credit sales tax account also. Goods returned. It's just getting reversed. Purchases, returns, credit, sales tax account, credit, payables, debt. Got it? goods returned by customer including sales tax. मरियम, अब हम लोग गुड्स रिटर्न कर रहे हैं कस्टमर को, बिजनेस गुड्स वापस कर रहा है कस्टमर को जिनके अंदर सेल्स टैक्स इंक्लूडेड था। ठीक है, इसका क्या मतलब है? सॉरी, गुड्स रिटर्न कस्टमर, जिसको सेल की गई थी वो कस्टमर गुड्स वापस कर रहा है बिजनेस को। बिजनेस रिसीव कर रहा है वो गुड्स जो कि पहले सेल की गई थी कस्टमर को और उनके अंदर सेल्स टैक्स भी इंक्लूडेड। जब इनिशियली सेल्स हुई क्रेडिट पे तो क्या अकाउंटिंग एंट्री थी? जब सेल्स हुई नहीं, सेल्स अकाउंट क्यों डेबिट होगा? अच्छा, अगर आप कहते हो कि सेल्स अकाउंट डेबिट हुआ था जब हम लोगों ने कस्टमर को सेल्स की थी, तो क्यों डेबिट हो? सेल्स इनकम है, इनकम इंक्रीज होती है तो वो क्या होती है एज पर रूल्स ऑफ डेबिट एंड क्रेडिट? इंक्रीज इन इनकम इज क्रेडिट, तो फिर सेल्स तो क्रेडिट होनी चाहिए ना। और जब फिर सेल्स हुई क्रेडिट पर तो डेबिट क्या होगा? क्या चीज इंक्रीज हो रही है बिजनेस में? एक तरफ तो इनकम इंक्रीज होगी, दूसरी तरफ कैश तो रिसीव नहीं हुआ। अच्छा, टैक्स भी इंक्रीज हुआ, उसको भी हमने क्रेडिट कर दिया। अच्छा, डेबिट क्या होगा? सेल्स टैक्स क्रेडिट हुआ क्योंकि लायबिलिटी इंक्रीज होगी। डेबिट क्या होगा? उसको नहीं देखो, ये अलहदा मैं बता रही हूँ। सेल्स हुई है क्रेडिट पर, सेल्स की गई है क्रेडिट पर, वो तो गुड्स रिटर्न कर दिए गए हैं। जब गुड्स वही रिटर्न हुए जो कि पहले सेल किए गए थे। आपको मैंने चीजें सेल की, अकाउंटिंग एंट्री अलहदा पास होगी। आपने मुझे वापस कर दी वो सेल्स कि मुझे नहीं पसंद आई, उसके लिए अलहदा अकाउंटिंग एंट्री पास होगी। जब पहले बिजनेस में मैंने आपको चीजें सेल की हैं तो मेरे पास क्या इंक्रीज हो रहा है? आपको सेल की है मैंने क्रेडिट पर, तो मेरे पास राइट इंक्रीज हो रहा है आपसे फ्यूचर में पैसे लेने के लिए। रिसीवेबल्स इंक्रीज होंगे, तो डेबिट रिसीवेबल्स अकाउंट। अब आपने मुझे चीजें वापस कर दी हैं तो बिजनेस के अंदर दोबारा वही गुड्स वापस आ गए। आपने मुझे वापस कर दिए, नहीं पेएबल्स तो यहाँ पे होंगे ही ना, वापस करेंगे तो पेएबल्स इंक्रीज होंगे। नहीं, क्यों पेएबल्स क्यों इंक्रीज होगा जबकि पेएबल्स थे ही नहीं। पेएबल्स तो वो हैं कि जिनको बिजनेस ने पैसे वापस कर दिए, जिनसे बिजनेस ने उधार पर परचेस किया था। यहाँ पर तो बिजनेस उधार पर चीजें सेल कर रहा है, रिसीवेबल्स इंक्रीज हुए। अब ये गुड्स दोबारा रिटर्न कर दिए गए तो दोबारा से ये रिसीवेबल्स डिक्रीज हो गए। गॉट इट? जब वो दोबारा गुड्स जो कि रिटर्न कर दिए गए तो नाउ द रिसीवेबल्स हैव बीन डिक्रीज्ड, have been credited. So we are going to credit receivables. What are we going to debit? Very good. Debit sales returns account. Sales returns account are also known as return inward accounts. Return inwards account. And debit goods returned by customers. Students, have a look at these accounting entries too. Now from accounting entry number 1 to 20, please revise all of the accounting entries. My online students, you too. Please revise all of the accounting entries from 1 to 20.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yes, sure. Return goods to suppliers. Who are suppliers, Mariam? Yes, you are paying for the suppliers. Suppliers are the person who are supplying something to the business. So जब भी हम लोग पहले goods purchase करेंगे supplier से, तो क्या accounting entry होगी? अच्छा, आप बिजनेस हो और मैं सप्लायर हूँ, आप मुझसे कुछ परचेज कर रही हो, तो क्या अकाउंटिंग एंट्री आप पास करोगी? हाँ, आपके पास गुड्स आ रहे हैं, नहीं, मैं पेएबल होंगी, मैं तो रिसीवेबल अपने तौर पे मैं होंगी, मैं तो जो होंगी मेरी फिक्र नहीं आपने करनी। आप बिजनेस हो, आपने अपना देखना है कि आपने क्या अकाउंटिंग एंट्री पास करनी है, आपके पास क्या है। आप कैसे रिसीवेबल, आप अपनी ही रिसीवेबल, आपने खुद ही अपने आप से पैसे रिसीव करने हैं। सप्लाई किया तो रिसीव होंगे, लेकिन आपके पैसे बाद में देंगे। मेरा नहीं, आप बिजनेस हो, आपने अपना देखना है, आपने सोचना है आपके पास क्या आ रहा है, आपने मेरा नहीं देखना। आप बिजनेस हो, आपने परचेजेस की हैं, आपके पास क्या आ रहा है। ये मोबाइल मुझसे परचेज करो, आपने परचेज कर लिया, आपके पास क्या आ रहा है, आपने परचेज कर लिया, तो यही आ रहा है ना, तो ये परचेजेस आपके पास आ गई ना, आ गई परचेजेस। तो जब आपके पास एक्सपेंस इंक्रीज हुआ, आपने परचेजेस को डेबिट कर दिया, ठीक है। अब आपने पैसे इसके मुझे अभी नहीं दिए, आप कहते हो कि इसमें पैसे इसके बाद में, तो अब आपकी लायबिलिटी भी इंक्रीज होगी, तो आप क्रेडिट करोगी पेएबल, मैं आपकी पेएबल, ठीक है, आपकी मैं पेएबल, आपने मुझे पैसे फ्यूचर में इस मोबाइल के पे करने, आपकी लायबिलिटी इंक्रीज होगी। आप डेबिट करोगी परचेजेस को, समझ आ रही है, डेबिट करोगी परचेजेस को, क्रेडिट करोगी पेएबल्स, ठीक है। ये परचेज करो, मुझे पैसे दो पैसे, कैश मेरे पास आ गया, आपके पास से कैश लगा दिया, आपका डिक्रीज इन एसेट, आप डेबिट करोगी परचेजेस, क्रेडिट करोगी कैश को, ठीक है। मेरे लिए आप रिसीवेबल हो या नहीं हो वो आपका हेडेक नहीं, मेरे लिए आप रिसीवेबल हो, और मुझे आपको मेरा नहीं सोचना, आपने अपना सोचना, मैं अपने बिहाफ पर मैं रिसीवेबल है अकाउंटेंट के पास, आपने देखना आपके लिए नहीं, आपने तो मुझे पैसे देने हैं, आपके लिए परचेजेस, डेबिट, क्रेडिट, पेएबल्स, आपकी लायबिलिटी इंक्रीज होगी। आप 2 दिन के बाद अभी भी मुझे पसंद नहीं आया, वापस आपने कर दिया, आपने जो परचेजेस की थी वो रिटर्न कर दी, अब यही जो परचेजेस आपने डेबिट की थी वो आप क्रेडिट कर दी, ठीक है। और आपने मुझे पैसे देने थे, वो पैसे नहीं देने, क्योंकि मेरे पास दोबारा मेरी चीजें वापस आ गई, तो पेएबल्स जो लायबिलिटी क्रेडिट की थी वो आपकी रिड्यूस होगी, अब आपने पैसे नहीं दिए, तो डेबिट कर दोगी पेएबल्स, तो डेबिट हो गए पेएबल्स, क्रेडिट होगी परचेजेस, रिटर्न्स, गॉट इट। और सेल्स टैक्स अगेन जो कि है वो क्या है, क्रेडिट हो जाएगा, क्योंकि वो डेबिट हुआ था जब परचेजेस आपने की थी, समझ आई। Is everyone clear?
Yes, break.
Okay, great. Till 11:20. Okay, up till 11:20 we are now going to have a break. Okay, Rabia and Aisha,
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
you're welcome. मरीम, अगर नहीं समझ आया फिर भी तो बताओ मुझे।
अब अगर आप यहाँ पे टेबल लिखेंगे तो
डेबिट एंड क्रेडिट वाला, ओके,
इजी हो जाएगा।
rules of debit and credit. Increase, decrease. Assets, liabilities, equity, income, and expenses. Increase in asset, debit, decrease in asset, credit, increase in liability, credit, decrease in liability, debit, increase in equity, credit, decrease in equity, debit, increase in income, credit, decrease in income, debit, increase in expenses, debit, decrease in expenses, credit. Got it? Mariam, keep in mind the business entity concept. आप बिजनेस हो, आपने अपना सोचना है कि मेरे पास क्या इंक्रीज हो रहा है, मेरे पास क्या डिक्रीज हो रहा है. आपके पास अगर एसेट्स इंक्रीज हो रहे हैं तो डेबिट करो, आपके पास अगर एसेट डिक्रीज हो रहे हैं तो क्रेडिट करो. ठीक है? तो कोई बात नहीं, कंफ्यूज तो हो जाते हैं हम. रिसीवेबल्स अगर कंफ्यूज हो तो इट्स ओके, कोई मसला नहीं, कंफ्यूज हो जाते हैं हम. रिसीवेबल्स वो लोग हैं जिनसे हमने पैसे रिसीव करने हैं, रिसीवेबल जिनसे बिजनेस ने पैसे रिसीव करने हैं. पेबल्स वो लोग हैं जिन्हें बिजनेस ने पैसे पे करने हैं. रिसीवेबल्स वो हैं जिनसे बिजनेस ने पैसे रिसीव करने हैं. Right to receive the money is arising because of receivables. Receivables are assets of the business. Payables वो हैं जिन्हें बिजनेस ने पैसे पे करने हैं इन फ्यूचर, वो क्या है बिजनेस की लायबिलिटी. गॉट इट? समझ आई? अब आप अगर कुछ उधार पर, बिजनेस कुछ उधार पर परचेज कर रहा है तो वो परचेजेस तो डेबिट करेगा. क्रेडिट वो कैश को नहीं कर सकता क्योंकि कैश नहीं जा रहा बिजनेस से बाहर. लायबिलिटी बढ़ रही है बिजनेस की टू पे इन द फ्यूचर. और परचेजेस ऑन क्रेडिट है तो क्रेडिट पेएबल्स होगा. लायबिलिटी इन द फॉर्म ऑफ पेएबल्स इज इंक्रीजिंग. वही लायबिलिटी डिक्रीज हो जाएगी अगर परचेजेस रिटर्न कर दी गई हैं सप्लायर को बैक. तो फिर परचेजेस जहां पे डेबिट हुई थी वो क्या हो जाएंगी? क्रेडिट हो जाएंगी. पेएबल्स जहां पर क्रेडिट हुए थे वो डेबिट हो जाएंगे. देखो वो परचेजेस, ये अकाउंटिंग एंट्री पास की गई थी जब परचेजेस हुई. यही अकाउंटिंग एंट्री रिवर्स हो गई जब परचेजेस रिटर्न कर दी गई. गॉट इट? समझ आई? इसको थोड़ा सा करोगी, प्रैक्टिस करोगी तो ये हो जाएगा. एंड कीप योरसेल्फ रिलैक्स्ड. प्लीज रिलैक्स. अब ब्रेक के अंदर इसको नहीं देखना, ठीक है? बाद में सब यहाँ से बातें करेंगे.
Sorry.
How's the F3 review? That's sorry,
Financial accounting? Easy, I'm good with numericals and these type of things rather than theory. But advances in BD classes, even on Sunday, I woke up at 8:30. Okay. And when I came here, after 1 hour, I was gone. It was very sleepy. Today I woke up at 5. Still, I was supposed to be. I like these things. Medical things, I'm good with them. Theory is. I've checked out, but I don't get to we saw it. Everything.
I didn't go through exactly. No, all of it. Oh,
I got it from Pakistan. I got it from Pakistan.
really? When you get from Pakistan?
Yeah, I got it from Pakistan. Because there, like exactly the group was of I guess 25 films. In Pakistan, I got this group for 900 rupees. It's 20, not even 20 rupees.
Really?
Yeah.
What did they order? From
Yes.
someone or from you?
Yeah, relatives in Pakistan.
Yes,
You can order online from Urdu Bazaar.
who was that?
Urdu Bazaar.com. You
Okay.
can order online from there. You get it on your postal address. And then you can get it courier. Or if someone is coming from Pakistan.
It's like only 20 dirhams.
Yeah. For the book, it's 20 dirham, and for the exam, it's 500 rupees, which is better in the best. So you get the complete set of 35 dirhams. That's the plan.
I was thinking it went about this. Like, why, all the money.
If you order online and you can get it courier, even then it will be very cheap.
Yeah.
Because the far, he got it from here. He got 4 books for 425 bucks.
That is the
This is the example. It's from this report. We are using movies when we create it.
I watched it.
You stand up. Hindi.
I don't like it. I really I support so much to do with it.
I'm not talking about studying Hindi. It's talking in
I hate English. These videos, what are these?
only the things. It's pretty. A lot of it language is not like proper. And they want these pollutants. It's already good. Still it's not working. Not in front of us. We will.
May I come in, students? Yes. Sorry, I forgot to mute and pause recording. Okay. So Aisha and Rabia,
Yes, ma'am.
class.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mariam, are you okay now? Yes. In break, you should not be studying, okay? And before the half day of your exam, you should not study. No one. Before to at least half day of your exam, you should not study. Do not wake up during the night to study. Okay, especially in your exams. And these first 4 papers of ACC are very easy to pass. Everyone passes. Everyone passes. Okay, don't worry about that. May you remove it? Okay, now students, transaction number 21, check received dishonor. Okay. Whenever the check has been received, when the check is received from the receivable, what is an accounting entry for that? Debit is bank account, credit is receivables account. Received check from receivables. Instead of receiving cash from receivable, we have received the check for getting a payment. The accounting entry will be debit bank account, credit receivables account. मरियम, जब भी हम लोग चेक रिसीव करते हैं किसी कस्टमर से कि उसने हमें पेमेंट देनी है, तो हम लोग डेबिट करेंगे बैंक अकाउंट को, क्रेडिट करेंगे रिसीवेबल अकाउंट को. क्यों? क्योंकि हमारा बैंक अकाउंट, बिजनेस का बैंक अकाउंट इंक्रीज हो रहा है और रिसीवेबल्स डिक्रीज हो रहे हैं. That is why we are going to debit bank account and we are going to credit receivables. Got it? अब जब वो चेक हम लोगों ने जमा करवाया बैंक में और हमें पता चला कि भाई उसके तो अकाउंट में पैसे ही नहीं थे, कस्टमर के अकाउंट में तो पैसे ही नहीं थे और चेक डिसऑनर हो, हम लोगों ने चेक रिसीव किया तो ये अकाउंटिंग एंट्री पास कर ली कि हमारा बैंक अकाउंट इंक्रीज हो गया है, रिसीवेबल्स डिक्रीज हो गए, अब हम लोगों ने उनसे पैसे वापस नहीं. लेकिन जब हमने चेक दिया बैंक के अंदर, when we gave the check to the bank, we found that before the clearance that it has been disowned because insufficient funds have been present in the customer's account. So in that case, we are simply going to reverse the accounting entry. What will that be then? Debit receivables account. Again, the asset has arisen. Now again, we have to receive an amount from the receivables account. So receivables account will be debited and credited will be bank account. Our bank account will be credited. We have simply reversed this accounting entry. So check disowned. Clear everyone? Okay, now 22nd page, local business tax by check. What is a local business tax? It is an expense for the business. Whenever expense incurs, we debit it. Debit expense. Which kind of expense? Local business tax account. And because we are paying through the check, that is why bank account of the business is going to decrease. Whenever asset decreases, Mariam, we do credit it. Paid tax. Cleared? Afaq, are you clear, dear? Leave accounting entry number 23 and 24. Okay, from 23 to 28, leave the accounting entries. Just mark them that we are going to do them in future. 23 to 28. Aisha and Rabia, from 23 to 28, we are going to do it later.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
May I erase it?
Yes, ma'am.
Samiha, are you clear, dear? Okay, now 29th is trade discount received from supplier. Students, there are two types of discounts, normally given or taken. Trade discount and cash discount. Students, for trade discount, normally there is no entry. For cash discount, we do have an entry. Whenever the cash discount is received or paid, we do pass an accounting entry for that. When we do give or receive, when we do allow or receive trade discount, there is no accounting entry for that. What is the trade discount? During the discussion between the supplier and purchaser, whatever discount is being given for purchasing or selling the things in bulk is known as a trade discount. Say, for example, Mariam comes to me and say, I am a cloth trader. Mariam comes to me and say that what is the price of this one suit? I say that it's for 180. She says that I am going to purchase 10 suits from you. Do give me some discount. For every list price of a suit, I will be paying 90 AED. So for 10 suits, I will be giving her the trade discount of 100. Because she is purchasing in bulk, that is why on the list price of the suit, I am giving her 10 AED discount. So 10 AED discount for 10 suits, I am giving her, that is the trade discount which she has received. For this trade discount, we are not going to pass any accounting entry. The accounting entry is going to remain the same as we do pass for purchases. What is that? Debit, purchases account, and credit, payables account. Only the price is going to be affected. The amount of the suit has been 100, but now the accounting entry which is going to be passed for 10 suits will be 900. No separate accounting entry will be passed for trade discount. This is the accounting entry which we are going to pass. Got it? This is a trade discount. If, say, for example, trade discount is allowed. Trade discount allowed to customer. If, say, for example, Samiha is a shoe trader. I go to Samiha and I do want to purchase some shoes from her. But so it means that I am a customer for Samiha and Samiha is now a supplier. Sorry? Yes, AC is not working. No, I have not reported. Students, have you reported? Yes, AC is not working properly for so many years. But as you can see, यहाँ पर ये ठंड नहीं है.
ज्यादा आ रहा है कागज में नो प्रॉब्लम ये बस
तो हम लोग ये रूम चेंज नहीं कर सकते?
आप उधर बता ये सर ये फुल 24 क्या सर नहीं कर क्लास ये लास्ट फुल
ठीक है। So students, we can just request them to change the room then, because he's right. Actually, because of the surroundings, there is so much heat, that is fine. Okay, so trade discount allowed to the customer. Acha, I am going to Samiha and I am asking her to purchase some shoes from her. Now, to Samiha, I request that Samiha, in bulk, I will be purchasing the shoes from you. Please give me some discount. Samiha will be allowing me some discount on the list price of the shoes. Let's say, for example, one pair of shoes is for 10 AED and I am buying 10 shoes from her. In bulk, I am purchasing. The total price should be 100 AED, but I am telling her that for every pair of shoe, I will be having 1 AED discount from. So 1 AED discount for 10 shoes, 10 AED will be in the form of discount. Now Samiha is allowing me discount on the bulk purchase. The accounting entry which Samiha is going to pass will remain the same for sales. That is debit receivables account and credit sales account. Only the price is going to be now 98. Instead of 100 AED, Samiha is going to pass an accounting entry for 90 AED because the price is now discounted. This is the treatment of trade discount, and this is what we call as a trade discount. During the bargaining, during the setting of price, the price which is agreed by the supplier and the purchaser is known as a trade discounted price. Got it? So over here the narration has been trade discount received, and this is trade discount allowed. So what is a trade discount? During the bargain, during the agreement between the buyer and the seller, the price which is decided after allowing or receiving a discount is known as a trade discount price. On the other hand, the discount which is allowed at the time of bargain, an amount which is agreed between buyer and seller at the time of bargain, is known as a trade discount value. Got it? So there will not be any kind of separate accounting entry for trade discount. The accounting entry will remain the same as we do pass in the ordinary case of the purchases and sales. Clear, everyone? The other one is cash discount. For cash discount, there will be an accounting entry separate. Separate accounting entry will be there for cash discount. Aisha and Rabia, are you cleared?
Yes, ma'am.
May I erase it? Okay, now 31. Cash discount allowed to customers. Students, cash discount is a type of a discount which is arising at the time of payment. Say, for example, Hizar purchases few goods from me. Yes, please. Yes. One other person, yes. He came. One person came to check. Actually, he was telling that it's okay, it's working all right. But the thing is that from outside there is a lack of. There is outside. Yeah, there's what's not. There will not be long. No, not yes. Okay, so students, cash discount is a type of a discount which will be given or allowed at the time of the payment. So I was giving an example. Say for example, a farm purchases few things from me, and he tells me that, ma'am, I'm not going to pay you right now at the time of the transaction, but in future I will be paying you. Maybe on 20th of October I will be paying you. So this have been the terms and conditions settled in between me and his. That on 20th of October, he is going to pay back the amount. But Hizar comes on 18th of October and tells me that, ma'am, here is your payment. I am paying you earlier than our agreement, but give me some discount on the basis of that. Say, for example, he had to pay me 100 AED. He tells me that because I am paying you earlier than our agreement, please give me a discount on that 100 AED, maybe 20 AED or whatever it is. The discount which I am going to give him because of the early payment is known as a cash discount. Got it? The cash, sorry? Only for early payment. Cash discount is allowed only on the early payment basis. At the time of the payment, the cash discount is going to arise. We are going to pass a separate accounting entry for cash discount. When we do allow the cash discount to the customers, it means that now the expense on the behalf of the business is arising. Discount, when it is going to be allowed, it means that the expense on the behalf of the business is arising. So we are going to debit discount allowed account. Increase in expenses, debit. And we are going to credit, because of allowing discount, the amount which we have to receive from the receivables is now decreased. So we are going to credit receivables. Decrease in receivables, decrease in assets is credit. So we are going to credit receivables account. And the transactions narration will be cash discount allowed. Clear? What is an accounting entry for cash discount allowed? Debit discount allowed account, credit receivables account. Since discount allowed is an expense, where do we report expenses, students? Ultimately, the financial statements. Where? Statement of profit or loss. So discount allowed will be going to the statement of profit or loss. Where do we report assets? SOFP, statement of financial position. So receivables will be going to the SOFP. This decrease in receivables will ultimately be reported to the SOFP. Discount allowed will ultimately be reported to the SOP. Cleared, everyone? Now 32. Cash discount received from suppliers. Now this is just the opposition of the previous accounting entry. This is a discount received from the suppliers. Say for example, to the supplier, if the business is making an early payment and requiring a discount, this type of discount will be cash discount received from the supplier. तो मरियम जो डिस्काउंट हम लोग देंगे अपने कस्टमर्स को वो है डिस्काउंट अलाउड. वो हमारे लिए एक्सपेंस है, हमारे लिए मींस बिजनेस के लिए. एक्सपेंस के अंदर इंक्रीज हो तो वो क्या होता है? डेबिट होता है. तो डेबिट डिस्काउंट अलाउड अकाउंट हम लोग क्रेडिट करेंगे रिसीवेबल्स को, क्योंकि डिस्काउंट देने की वजह से अब हम लोग रिसीवेबल से कम पेमेंट ले रहे हैं. तो रिसीवेबल्स डिक्रीज हो गए, इस वजह से हम उन्हें क्रेडिट करेंगे. डिक्रीज इन एसेट्स, क्रेडिट. उसके बाद कैश डिस्काउंट रिसीव फ्रॉम सप्लायर्स. हमने कुछ लोगों से परचेजेस की थी, अब हम उन्हें कैश देते वक्त कुछ डिस्काउंट मांग रहे हैं, तो वो क्या कहलाएगा? कैश डिस्काउंट रिसीव फ्रॉम सप्लायर्स. Students, whenever we receive the discount from suppliers, it is going to be treated as an increase in income. Discount received from suppliers will be treated as an income. So increase in income is credit. Discount received account will be credit. What are we going to debit? Because we have received the discount from our suppliers, now the amount which we have to pay them is diminishing. जो amount हम लोगों ने अपने suppliers को pay करनी है वो कम हो गई है. Liabilities हमारी कम हो गई है. Decrease in liability is debit. Which kind of liabilities decreased over here? Payables. So we are going to debit payables account. Narration is discount received. Are you clear about the difference of trade discount and cash discount now? The discount which arises at the time of bargain in setting the price is known as a trade discount. A cash discount is a type of a discount which arises at the time of making yearly payment. So we are not going to pass any accounting entry for trade discount. Only the amount of the transaction is going to be affected. On the behalf of cash discount, we are going to pass a separate accounting fee. Got it? And what is the discount? Cash discount allowed to customers entry, debit discount allowed, credit receivables. Cash discount received from suppliers, debit payables account, credit discount received account. Rabia and Aisha, are you cleared?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Now, in our future chapters, all of this discussion is going to be revised. Okay? One by one, all these accounting entries will be revised. May I erase it? Yes. Sure, Maria? Yes. Okay, now 33. Wages expense arised wages expense paid. Students, this is a situation which arises at the time of practical implication of the topics. Whatever you have learned, when you are going to practically apply it, this is how you are going to apply it. First, the expenses arise and then you pay them. Normally, for expenses, whatever expenses are there, whenever we are paying them, the normal accounting entry which we do tell the students is debit expenses, credit, cash. This is what I have told you in our last transaction also. When we pay expenses, accounting entry is debit expense, credit, cash. But when you will be doing this work in your organizations, first you have to arise the wages expense or any kind of expense, then you are going to pass an accounting entry for their payment. Whenever the wages expense or any kind of expense is going to be arised, the accounting entry will be debit wages expense account, that is an expense has been incurred, and credit wages payable account. First, the liability is going to arise. then we are going to fulfill that liability. When liability increases, we credit it. The liability for the wages for the laborers have arisen. Increase in liability, credit. Increase in expense, debit. Wages expense will be debited and wages payable or any kind of expense is payable. Do not confuse yourself. If an exam, it simply comes that wages have been paid, the accounting entry will be wages expense debit and credit cash. But you should be considering that what actually happens in the organization. Whatever expenses there is, say for example, electricity expense is being paid. First, you will be considering that it has been arisen before sometime. Electricity expense debit and electricity payable account credit. So we can say wages expense incurred. Now, when you pay it, then you decrease this liability, debit, wages payable account, and credit cash account. And narration is wages expense paid. Now, what is happening actually? Ultimate effect is going to be the same. What is that? Wages payable credit and wages payable debit will be cancelled by each other. What is the ultimate effect? Debit wages expense account, credit cash account. This is what ultimately is happening. So the final adjustment, final accounting entry which is coming in front of you is wages expense account debit and wage cash account credit. But first you have to arise a liability, you have to pass an accounting entry for arising of liability. Then you are going to pay the wages expense or any kind of expense, and then you are going to pass an accounting payment. Got it? This is what happens in actual. So over here in transaction number 33, accounting for wages expense. That is why they have written debit wages expenses account and credit wages payable account. If an exam comes that wages expenses have been paid, the accounting entry will be the simple one, wages expenses account debit and credit cash. But this is how it works. Look, Mariam, पहले हम लोग लाइबिलिटी को इंक्रीज करेंगे कि लाइबिलिटी ऑब्लिगेशन बिजनेस की अराइज हो गई है. इंक्रीज इन एक्सपेंस डेबिट, इंक्रीज इन लाइबिलिटी क्रेडिट. फिर हम लोग उस लाइबिलिटी को फुलफिल करने की अकाउंटिंग एंट्री पास करेंगे. वो क्या होगी? लाइबिलिटी डिक्रीज हुई है, डिक्रीज इन लाइबिलिटी डेबिट, डिक्रीज इन एसेट क्रेडिट. अब हम लोगों ने लाइबिलिटी फुलफिल की. अल्टीमेट इफेक्ट क्या होगा? क्रेडिट और डेबिट एक दूसरे से कैंसिल हो गया. तो जो नॉर्मल अकाउंटिंग एंट्री हमारे अकाउंट्स में शो हो रही है, वेजेस एक्सपेंस अकाउंट डेबिट क्रेडिट कैश. क्लियर ना? Afaq, are you cleared? Aisha, Rabia, are you cleared?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, leave accounting entry number 34 and 35. And see the accounting entry number 36. In accounting entry number 36, they are telling wages paid to employee. Now, when the wages are going to be actually paid to an employee, this accounting entry is going to be passed. Will you see the same accounting entry there? Debit wages payable account, credit cash account. When actually wages are going to be paid, debit wages payable account and credit cash. The liability is going to arise. Debit wages expense account, credit wages payable account. Students, if you are clear, may I erase it?
Yes,
Okay, now 37. Social Security, SS, Social Security and income tax paid to income tax authority. Students, again, it's a kind of an expense. Social security tax is in UK, okay, not here in UAE. So social security and income tax paid to the income tax authority, again, on the same principle, we are going to pass an accounting entry. First, the payable is going to be arising, then the liability is going to be fulfilled. So at the time of the payment, what accounting entry is going to be passed? Liability is going to be decreased, assessed, and income tax payable account debit, and credit will be cash account. Narration, assess, and income tax paid on the same principle. We have decreased the liability and we have decreased the asset. Yes, but actually there is a full chapter for that. If I will be telling you right now, the students are going to be confused, more confused, okay? Cleared up till here? Mariam, are you confused in anything? Clear? Before to that, what accounting entry must have been passed? Debit, assets and income tax expense account, credit, assets and income tax payable account. At the time of the payment, we are debiting that payable account again and crediting cash. Clear? Give me, I erase it. Okay. Now students see accounting entry number 38. Accrued expense. What is an accrued expense? Expense incurred but not yet paid. Students, we do know that while doing accounting, we do keep in mind, or we do follow accrual basis of accounting. Accrual basis of accounting tells us that we have to record our income and expenses on the basis of right and occurrence. We are going to record the expenses whether paid in the form of cash or not. We are going to record the income whether received in the form of cash or not. हम लोग जब भी कोई एक्सपेंस इनकर कर लेंगे, we have to record it, चाहे हम लोगों ने उसे कैश में पे किया है या नहीं किया. हम लोग इनकम को रिकॉर्ड करेंगे अगर वो हमारा राइट बन चुकी है, अगर हमने उसे अर्न कर लिया है, चाहे वो हमें कैश में रिसीव हुई है या नहीं. दिस इज एन accrual basis of accounting. What are accrued expenses? वो एक्सपेंसेस जो कि इनकर हो चुके हैं, जो कि हमारी लायबिलिटी बन चुके हैं, पर हमने उन्हें अभी तक कैश में पे नहीं किया. हमें इस साल हमें जो करंट अकाउंट अंडर कंसिडरेशन है उसके अंदर हमें इसे रिकॉर्ड करना पड़ेगा. Got it? What are accrued expenses? The expenses which have been incurred but not yet paid in the form of cash. लेकिन क्योंकि हम लोग accrual basis of accounting follow कर रहे हैं, that's why we have to record these in our current records. Accrued expenses को पास करने के लिए क्या accounting entry होगी? Debit will be expense account, एक्सपेंस इनकर हो चुका हुआ है, हम लोगों ने उसको डेबिट करना है, इंक्रीज इन एक्सपेंस डेबिट, और हम लोग क्रेडिट कैसे करेंगे? पे नहीं किया, अराइज हो चुका है लेकिन नॉट गेट पेड इन द फॉर्म ऑफ कैश, नहीं। Accrued expense payable account. This is a payable, but accrued expense. This is a liability. This is a little bit difficult topic for you to understand. Accrued expense वो तमाम expenses हैं जो कि incur हो चुके हैं, जो कि arise हो चुके हैं, but in the form of cash अभी तक पे नहीं। Increase in expense हो चुका है, whenever there is an increase in expense, we are going to debit it. लेकिन हम लोगों ने अभी तक कैश में पे नहीं किया, हम लोगों ने उनको फ्यूचर में कैश में पे करना है, तो लाइबिलिटी अराइज हो गई। लाइबिलिटी, इंक्रीज इन लाइबिलिटी इज क्रेडिट। Which kind of liability is this? Accrued expense. This is an increase in liability. Clear? Aisha and Rabia, are you cleared?
Yes, ma'am.
Expense, accrued expense, prepaid expense. Arised or incurred, but not yet paid. Debit expense, credit accrued expense account. This is an accrued expense. On the other hand, we do have prepaid expenses also. These are the expenses which have not been incurred yet, but we have paid it already. What are prepaid expenses? ये वो expenses हैं जो कि अभी तक हमारी जिम्मेदारी नहीं बने, लेकिन हम लोग इन्हें कैश की सूरत में पे कर चुके हैं। अब as per accrual basis of accounting, we are not eligible to record them in our current accounting period, क्योंकि ये हमारे expense थे ही नहीं current year में, हमने उन्हें कैश में पे कर दिया, लेकिन हम लोग इस accounting period में इन्हें record नहीं करें। What are prepaid expenses? These are the expenses which are not our liability yet, which are not our expense yet, but we have paid them already in the form of cash. Prepaid expenses. Paid in advance. Not yet incurred, but paid. Can anyone tell me what accounting entry we are going to pass for it? What accounting entry are we going to pass for it? Look, we have paid this expense, लेकिन हम लोगों ने इस expense का फायदा फ्यूचर में उठाना है। And what is the difference between an expense and an asset? If the benefit is already expired, it's an expense. If the benefit is yet to expire, it is our asset. जो prepaid expense हम लोगों ने पे कर दिया है वो अब हमारे लिए asset बन जाए, क्योंकि in the future accounting periods we are going to take an advantage out of that. So whenever we have paid a prepaid expense, we are going to make an asset out of it. वो expense जो कि हम लोगों ने before to the time पे कर दिया है, हमारा expense अभी तक नहीं था, लेकिन हमने advance उससे पे कर दिया है, हम लोग उसे अपना asset बना लें. In that case, we are going to debit prepaid expense account. Why? Because this is an increase in asset. So conceptually, where are we going to report it ultimately? Where does asset goes? In its name, there is an expense coming, but because it's an asset, where are we going to report it? In our SOF, it's our asset, it's our current asset. क्योंकि इसका फायदा हम लोगों ने फ्यूचर में उठाना है. So whenever a right arises to take an advantage in the future, it is our asset. The prepaid expense, increase in asset is debit. What are we going to credit? We are going to credit expense because expense for the current period is decreased. Decrease in expense is credit. हम लोग अपने करंट अकाउंटिंग पीरियड के अंदर से इस एक्सपेंस को डायमिनिश कर देंगे, निकाल देंगे. ठीक है, एक्सपेंस को हम लोग रिड्यूस कर देंगे करंट. Yes, dear.
If we take prepaid expense as a liability.
Which one?
Prepaid expense as a liability.
Prepaid expense is a liability.
One day we have to pay it. We like.
No, we have already paid.
No, suppose rent of a factory. It is we have to pay it. If we pay it now or we pay it later, we have to pay it. So it is a liability. If you take it as a liability, you will then have to work.
No. If we have to pay a liability, then that one, the other principle is going to be followed. Rent expense account, rent payable account. Then rent payable account debit and then cash account credit. If some amount is paid in advance, then this accounting entry will be passed. अगर आपका इस साल का रेंट है, लेकिन आप उसे अभी पे नहीं कर रहे, तो आप जो अकाउंटिंग एंट्री पास करोगे वो होगी रेंट एक्सपेंस अकाउंट डेबिट, रेंट पेएबल अकाउंट क्रेडिट. और अगले साल जब आप उसे पे करोगे, क्योंकि वो रेंट एक्सपेंस आपका अभी ही होना है, अभी ही आप उसे रिकॉर्ड करोगे. जब अगले साल एक्चुअली कैश में पे करोगे तब रेंट पेएबल अकाउंट डेबिट और क्रेडिट कैश अकाउंट. ठीक है, अगर वो आप रेंट अकाउंट अभी आप इस साल में बैठे हो और अगले साल का रेंट आप अभी पे करते, तो वो आपके लिए अब इस साल एसेट बन जाएगा. उसके लिए आप करोगे प्रीपेड रेंट एक्सपेंस अकाउंट डेबिट, क्रेडिट रेंट एक्सपेंस अकाउंट. इस साल के एक्सपेंस से निकाल दोगे, अगले साल जब पे करोगे उसे, तो फिर आप एक्सपेंस अकाउंट, रेंट एक्सपेंस अकाउंट डेबिट, कैश अकाउंट क्रेडिट करोगे.
मैंने अगर इस साल का रेंट पे कर दिया, तो मेरा भी लायबिलिटी इंक्रीज कर दी, क्योंकि मेरी एट द एंड आई हैव टू लायबिलिटी रेंट टू पे करने का. तो
नहीं, वो लायबिलिटी ना, वो एक्सपेंस है, वो लायबिलिटी नहीं है, वो आपका एक्सपेंस है. ठीक है, अच्छा. डेबिट प्रीपेड एक्सपेंस अकाउंट एंड क्रेडिट इज एक्सपेंस अकाउंट. हम लोगों ने क्या करना है, इस साल के एक्सपेंस में से निकाल देना है. तो ये हम लोग कहाँ पे करेंगे, एसओपीएल के अंदर. एसओपीएल के अंदर जो हमारा एक्सपेंस जो हुआ है उसमें से डिडक्ट करेंगे प्रीपेड एक्सपेंस. Students, these short things which I am telling you, you can write it somewhere. Ultimately, these will be helpful to you. जब आप लोग प्रीपेड एक्सपेंसेस करोगे तो उस टाइम आपको पता होना चाहिए कि एक तरफ आपने इसे एसेट से लिखना है, दूसरी तरफ आपने एडजस्टमेंट करनी है अपने एसओपीएल के अंदर भी. उधर से आप प्रीपेड एक्सपेंस को अपना निकाल दो. इसी तरह एक्रूड एक्सपेंसेस एक तरफ लायबिलिटी में जाएगा, एक्रूड एक्सपेंस, बिकॉज दैट इज नाउ अ लायबिलिटी व्हिच यू हैव टू फुलफिल इन फ्यूचर. एक तरफ करंट लायबिलिटी में जाएगा, दूसरी तरफ करंट ईयर के एक्सपेंस में उसे ऐड करो एसओपीएल. ठीक है, तो दिस इज एन अकाउंटिंग एंट्री फॉर प्रीपेड एक्सपेंस. एक्सपेंस पेड इन एडवांस. तो आप हिजर आप ये कह रहे थे कि भाई ये डिक्रीज इन लायबिलिटी को हम लोग मतलब प्रीपेड एक्सपेंस जो कि ये डिक्रीज इन लायबिलिटी नहीं, यहाँ पे यही एक्सपेंस की सूरत में देखा जाएगा. ठीक है, लायबिलिटी आपकी वो एक्रूड जो है वो लायबिलिटी बनेगी जो अगले साल. Have a look at both of these transactions again. Accrued expense and prepaid expense. Aisha and Rabia, are you able to see the board?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
I don't know how does it focus. Can I erase it? Yes, Saniha? Madhyam? Okay, same like expenses, income can also be accrued income or unearned income. Accrued income is income earned but not yet received. Accrued income is an income which we have earned but not yet received in the form of cash. But as per the accrual basis of accounting, because it belongs to the current year, we have to record this income in our current year, whether received in the form of cash or not. मरियम, accrued income क्या है? वो income जो कि हमने earn कर ली है, जो कि हमारा right बन चुका है, लेकिन अभी तक cash की सूरत में receive नहीं हुआ. आप इस तरह से सोचो कि एक बिजनेस है, वो कहीं से कमीशन ले रहा है, किसी चीज के ऊपर कमीशन ले रहा है या सिंपली रेंट ले रहा है किसी जगह से. इस साल उसका रेंट ड्यू है 10,000 AE, पर अभी तक उसने वो इस साल के अंदर रेंट रिसीव नहीं किया, लेकिन एज पर एक्रूवल बेसिस ऑफ अकाउंटिंग वो रेंट जो कि अभी तक रिसीव नहीं हुआ कैश की फॉर्म में, वो फिर भी इस साल के रिकॉर्ड्स में जाए. So what is accrued income? Income earned but not yet received in the form of cash. What is unearned income? Income received but not yet earned or became our right. Unearned income क्या है? An unearned income is a type of an income which is received but not yet have become the right of the company. ये हम लोगों ने receive तो कर ली है, लेकिन अब तक हमारा right नहीं है. Say for example, कंपनी ने एक हॉल जो कि है वो रेंट पर दिया हुआ है और टेनेंट जो कि है वो अगले 3 सालों का रेंट एडवांस में कंपनी को दे देता है. अब कंपनी सारे के सारे 3 सालों की इनकम अपने करंट ईयर के अंदर रिकॉर्ड नहीं कर सकती, क्योंकि वो 3 सालों के अंदर इनकम जनरेट होगी जैसे जैसे वो कंपनी का राइट बनेगी. वो जितनी रिसीव्ड इनकम है, एडवांस इनकम है, वो अपने करंट ईयर इनकम के अंदर से डिडक्ट कर देगी. Got it? So accrued income. This is transaction number 40. Accrued income. It's income earned but not yet received. What is an accrued income? Income earned but not yet received. हम लोगों का राइट बन चुकी है पर अभी तक हम लोगों को रिसीव नहीं. तो जब भी इनकम हमारा राइट बन जाती है, इंक्रीज इन इनकम क्या है? इंक्रीज इन इनकम क्या है? What is an increase in income? Credit. What are we going to debit? It's an asset for us. We have a right on certain thing, but we have not received it yet. We are going to receive it in the future. So that's why we are going to debit accrued income account. Income earned but not yet received. Whenever there is an increase in income, we credit it. Whenever there is an increase in asset, we do debit. So what is an accounting entry for accrued income? It is debit accrued income account and credit income account. Accrued income is a kind of an income which is earned but not yet received in the form of cash. So that is why it will be becoming our asset. In the future, we are going to receive. On the other hand, the other kind of an income is unearned income. Unearned income or income received in advance. It's a kind of an income which we have not earned yet but received in advance. ऐसी income जो कि हमारा right अभी तक नहीं बनी लेकिन हम लोगों ने इसको receive कर लिया है advance में. ठीक है? This is our unearned income. So what are we going to do with that? हम लोगों ने इसको receive तो कर लिया है. तो हम receive करते हैं इनको what is an accounting entry? Cash account, debit, credit, income account. करते ही accounting entry जब हमने receive किया हमने accounting entry पास कर दी. लेकिन अब हमने जब साल के एंड पे देखा कि भाई वो तो हमारा राइट ही नहीं बनती थी. अब हमने उसे करंट ईयर के अंदर से निकालना है वापस. उस इनकम को डिक्रीज करना है. Okay. When we are recording the income received, we do pass an accounting entry as debit, cash account, and credit income account. While receiving the income in the form of cash, this is an accounting entry which we do pass. Debit, cash account, credit, income account. But at the end of the time period, we come to know that the income which has been recorded has not become our right yet. That is an unearned income. So we are going to diminish that portion of an income now. So we are going to debit income now in order to decrease that portion of an income. In the case of unearned income, we are going to debit income account and we are going to credit unearned income. Income received but not yet earned. Why we have credited unearned income, students? We have debited income because there is a decrease in income. But why we have credited unearned income? Because this is now our liability. This is our liability. We have received it, but not yet earned. So we are going to record it as per our liability. And then when we are going to receive it, when the particular accounting period is going to come, we are going to decrease this liability. We are going to debit unearned income and we are going to credit income then in every respective accounting. Got it? So this is an accounting entry for unearned income. Yes, dear. Oh, yes, sure. Yes, this is all. The last 4 transactions we are going to leave for the future. Okay, first revise the transactions which we have discussed up till now. In the last 5 minutes, we are going to discuss that formula. Now, online students also, please revise. Once you finish, let me know. Students, as you do know, in next week we have a test for management accounting for first 4 chapters. After that, we are going to have a test for financial accounting. Okay?
Okay,
Next
ma'am.
we will be having a test for financial. And please do not forget that in next week we have a quiz for BT also, business
Yes.
and
Yes, ma'am.
And that quiz will be covered from your exam kit as well as the understandings or illustrations in book. And even the test for financial accounting will be covered from your exam kit as well as the understanding from your book. Okay. Students, are you done? Okay, now that equation. I hope that you people will not be confused. Try to enjoy the lectures, that you are learning something. Okay? Don't be confused. If I say there is a scenario, I say that there has been 10% decrease in price and after decrease the price is $20 and the requirement is what has been the price before decrease. It means that now the price has been decreased. We are not having a look at increment. It's something which is decreased. And before to decrease, obviously the price would be high. And that price we are required to know. Equation is 1 plus G. Decreased price, increased price. Increased price is equal to decreased price with the growth factor in it or with the decrease in it. Getting it? With the help of this also you can find. What is the decreased price? We need to find it. How much decrease is there? 10%. What is the price after decrease? 20. Sorry, the decreased price is 20 and the increased price we need to find. Can you do it now? Now this will become more easier. Is it? Sorry? Try to find. Ready to? So now the price before decrease was 22. Clear? This is, we are adding growth factor in it. How much growth has been there. This can be applied in any of the ways. If there has been increase also, you can change the positions of the things. So increased price is always equal to the decreased price into growth factor. Do you think this is more easier? One more example. Okay. Let's consider as per increase now.
That's the same example, more than yesterday.
I forgot that.
30% prior, 30% increase.
30%?
Increase. Price after decrease that
30% decrease
price after decrease that
in price. Price after decreases $200. What is the price before decrease? So price before decrease is equal to decreased price 1 plus 30%. So price before decrease we have to find, and decreased price is 200, 1 plus 30%. Now do it. 60.
Now you can do it. You get 60. 60 plus 200 will be 260. But yesterday, according to your previous equation, the answer was 286. Yesterday,
No,
yeah,
it cannot happen.
it was 286, right? The answer was 286.
This could be the other one. That could be the other.
Because I was getting the answer according to this equation, I was getting the answer of 260. Like if there is a decrease, we'll add this.
Okay, with the help of the other equation, do you want me to do this?
Yeah, the answer was coming in 286. That's
For this one?
yeah.
How can this happen? That could be other. Can you show me if the scenario should have to be the same one also? Actually, the scenario should have been the same one. Maybe the scenario was different.
It was exactly same.
Okay, if there. Okay. Price with increase is equal to price without increase plus increase percentage with the help of this equation. So this is a different one, totally different one. That one from the book, I think so. That particular question. The scenario must have been different here. It cannot happen in the case.
Solve it, please.
So price with increase, price without, you are confusing me also now.
So,
Okay, price without increase, and now the decrease. Wait. Small decrease.
it's 70 here, price without.
Increased price minus decrease it would be, or without increase. Actually, it's decreasing. Do you have it above?
Formula is here.
No, it's not about the formula. Actually, the scenario. I need to check about the scenario. What has been the scenario?
Scenario have spent 1 hour on this yesterday. Scenario was exactly similar.
No. The price before, what did I get?
Correct. 30% decrease, sales price is 200.
Okay.
Okay. And the answer is 286.
Size after decrease. Then there is some problem in this one because this one is accurate. This one is 100% accurate. Why? Because there is a mistake in this one. Actually, I have done it in the wait. Give me the calculator.
Can I
Give me the
have-
calculator. No, let me just give me the calculator. Minus multiply. The answer is 60 for this one.
No, total answer will be 260. We'll add this and we'll get 260, the original price.
Okay, send it to me. I will be having a look at this because this means a little bit. Yes, you are right in that case. In that case, you are right. Over here, the total will be 260. I will be having a look at this. Okay, just send it to me in the group or separately. So this can also be used, and I will be looking at this because that particular question, the answer has been right.
You know the answer.
Okay, that was not according to the book. In book, it was not.
That you gave.
Okay. Let me just once. You were getting 60 for that. Heather, this is what
Total answer 260.
you were getting 60 out of that. After 30% decrease, the sales is 200. Can I please have a calculator? Actually, there has been a mistake. This one is correct.
This one is correct, right?
This one is correct. And over there, in the last one, it should be 260. The total should have been 260. The mistake, yes, you are very right. Sales price after decrease, it should be 100%. Sales price after decrease, 100%. The decrease is 30%. Got it? And sales price before decrease 130%. In the previous example, we did it in the same manner. Actually, the price before decrease, obviously it should be having the percentage of after decrease and the decrease itself. This is what we had to do. Clear? So sales price before decrease, it is 130% instead of over here. Everyone can see the sales price before decrease should be 130%. This is 130%, and sales price after decrease it's 100% plus 30%. Got it? Then 200 divided by 100 it will be, and then 130 divided by 260.
That's what I was.
Okay, thank you so much, dear, for correcting me. Actually, in a flow, we do make some mistakes also. But I feel the question was all right. The questions which we did, those were all right.
They were in 10%, so they were not right wrong. They were correct. But this one.
No, but the agenda has to be the same, but the basics have to be the same one.
But we can solve all these questions with this formula as well. All these questions. Let's take another example and we'll solve it.
Okay, come and solve.
Give us a scenario and solve.
30 divided by 100 multiplied by 200 with the same numbers, you can solve it.
Not the same numbers, but we can with the same formula.
Okay. Okay. Yes, we can do it. Not by dividing it with 100 every time. Not by dividing it with 100.
Percentage, and we'll have to divide it by 100.
Dear, look over here, you are getting 60 only. You are getting an amount of decrease or increase only. But you have to get the full price before decrease or increase.
So the full price will be 260.
Yes, you have to add 200 in it then again.
We'll add
You then have to add 200 in
we'll
it.
get the answer,
Yes.
we'll add it in 200. And
Okay, but if I say that you have to get the increased price only with the help of the formula, then the formula has to be changed.
if you're getting the decreased price, we'll have to add. If you're getting the increased price, then we'll have to subtract.
Okay.
I'm telling you, give an example, that's all.
Okay, no, do this one. 10% decrease in price.
Another one.
You can do it, but obviously you have to add or subtract it.
Yeah, that's it.
Directly with the help of the formula, we cannot do it.
No, but this is way more easier than that formula. A lot easier.
Okay.
For the percentage, this formula will be very easier.
Okay.
We'll take 10 divided by 10 and 2. We'll get 2.
Okay. Plus 20.
Because it's decreased, we'll plus with 20 and we'll get 22.
22. Very good. Excellent.
So the percentage, this one, ask them as well. For the percentage, this formula will be very easier compared to that one.
Okay. But again, Hizar, I would suggest to go according to the formula, because when you will be solving the questions, you will see sometimes the answer will be
When
wrong.
we'll be solving, then we'll see.
Okay, you are going to solve all of the questions. If all of are going to be done in this way, then it's fine.
Can I find these questions? Because I was not able to get it from the exam.
In the management, only on that high-low method only there will be. Or in the future, when we are going to have a look at the overheads or some things like that, over there it will be. Okay. So just because later I do not want all of you to be confused. Because if we are following only this, yes, and make the correction in that yesterday one. And thank you so much for correcting me. Okay, dear. So students, this is all for today. My online students have already